Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to Protecting Your Financial Growth. I'm your presenter today, Jay Reed. I'm actually the chapter chair of SCORE Mentoring, New Orleans. Today's webinar is brought to you in partnership with the U.S. Small Business Administration and Fund 17. Now, the purpose of this webinar is to just give people information on how to protect themselves while doing business, and of course in this new normal where we're using a lot of technology, which opens the door for a lot of risk. So I want to start off by giving you a scenario. In this scenario, you're an entrepreneur, of course. You've been working with organizations like SCORE, Fund 17, Urban Legal Work Network to build your business. You've got everything in place. You've put your finances in order. You've managed your credit properly. And you're finally ready to go to a bank and actually ask for a loan to expand your business. But when you get to the bank, application, it gets denied for a lack of credit worthiness or bad credit. Now, in your mind, you're thinking, you've done everything, you've paid your bills on time, you have low balances. How could you be denied for the low credit or bad credit? And as you do your research, you pull your credit report and you find accounts that you didn't open and they're already maxed out. Well, in this scenario, what's happened is your identity has been stolen through and it can be done through various means, which cause your credit to go down. Which means all that hard work you put into actually get into a situation where you can move forward in your business has just been demolished and you're back to square one at this point. So I know nobody wants to have that feeling of heartache and despair, for lack of better terms, but that is a reality that we live in. There are people out there that are looking to steal your personal information in order to open accounts in your name or even sell your information for other people to utilize your personal information. And that's what we want to touch on today, is how do you protect yourself from falling into those traps where you lose your personal information, your identity is stolen, and now you have to start over. And when I say start over, it's not just starting your business over, it's starting over personally. So this affects you in a much deeper way than just having to redo your business and redo paperwork. So with that being said, let's move on to the basically meat and potatoes of what we're trying to do. So first off, let's designate what information these hackers or these criminals or what information you need to protect. We designate this information as PII, or personal identifiable information. And we all know this information. So it's your full name, social security number, driver's license number, bank account number, passport number, email address. So it's anything that can be used to identify you as a particular individual. So this is information that they're looking for, because if I'm a hacker, if I'm a criminal, and I get your full name, your driver's license number, and your email address, there's a lot I can actually do. I picked those three things for a reason, because it doesn't seem as important, but these things identify who you are. If I need to reset an account to get access to it, and I have your email address, I can find a way to manipulate it where I can get that password reset redirected from your email address to the email address I can access. Or even if I have access to that email, I can get that password reset and get access to your accounts. Driver's license number is identifying factor. And of course, social security numbers. So be mindful of this type of information, anything that pinpoints who you are. And another thing that's not on this list, personal information such as what was the name of your first dog, first pet, what was the name of your childhood friend, your mother's maiden name. Those random questions that they have in games on social media, that's actually collecting some personal information from you, because a lot of companies use that for your security questions. So they'll ask you, like, what's your mother's maiden name? If you give that information, again, that's giving personal information that they can use to take your identity and basically utilize the credit that you worked so hard to build, and they'll basically just use it and destroy it. So how do you protect that? How do you protect yourself from identity theft? There's 3 areas in your life that you really want to focus on. The main areas are at home, as you do business, and on the computer. Now, as entrepreneurs, as you do business, you have to look at it from both sides, as a consumer and as a business person. So you have double the responsibility. And I'll get into that a little bit later, how it affects businesses a little bit more than just personal individuals. So at home, just 3 basic things that you need to focus on first is securing your documents. Any documents that you have that has personal information, like your social security number, your driver's license, account information, you want to put that into a secure. And it's for various reasons. You can be a person that has a lot of people coming in and out your house. You may consider all these people your friends, but you don't want to risk any of them seeing that personal information and being tempted to take that information and benefit from it. So you want to put all your documents into a secure location. If you need to get rid of a document, like insurance card, every 6 months we get a new insurance card. That has information on there that people can use to identify you. So you want to get rid of that information in a secure manner. Easiest way to do that is to use a shredder. Very inexpensive, but you want to use a shredder because you want to destroy the document. Now, if you're very, very cautious and want to be more in line with your cybersecurity experts, you can shred the documents and then put it into a water-based solution where it destroys the ink from the documents. That way, nobody can reconstruct the documents and they can't steal your information. And number 3, in protecting your information at home, make sure anything in the mailbox, all your mail is pulled as soon as possible. Don't let your mail linger, because you don't know who's sending what to you. They can be information in those letters that can be used to again steal your identity. Of course, you have your name and your address on the outside of the envelope. So that's identification right there, who you are and where you stay. But I know some of us have email or online banking where we get our statements sent to us via email, or we can access it online. But there are also people who get their statements mailed to them still. So if those statements get mailed to you and you don't pull it out of the mailbox, and you have a mailbox that can be accessed by the public, that's putting you at risk. So you want to make sure you pull all that information out of the mailbox as soon as possible. Now, if you are fortunate enough to be able to get like a PO box, something more secure, definitely use that for more sensitive documents. That way you know it's somewhere, it's secure until you can get to it. So, and to give you an example of how things can move at home, and it's not even just identity theft. There's so many things that can happen. There's a couple of stories out there, especially that's happening during this pandemic, where a child got access to account information, her mom's account information, and got on Amazon and ordered hundreds of dollars worth of items. Now, I know this is not identity theft, but that still poses a problem because your child just used information to order things and spend money that you weren't necessarily ready to spend. And the only reason they found out about it is because one day the delivery driver dropped off all these boxes from Amazon, and that's when the parents realized, okay, our daughter just ordered all these things, which in one way made a cute story because, oh, my daughter's 5, 6 years old, she's smart enough to order. But at the same time, in the middle of a pandemic where some people are strapped for cash, spending that money can be harmful to you personally. So that's one of the reasons why we say just make sure and going back to shredding, I know this is an old technique that criminals use, but it's still used today. It's called dumpster diving. If you throw away your documents without destroying them, shredding them, or anything like that, and somebody decides to go through your garbage, technically once you've thrown stuff out into the garbage and discarded it, you've just relinquished ownership. So the idea of privacy is no longer there. So they can literally jump into your garbage and pull that information out. So again, you want to destroy all that information when you're ready to discard it. Now, as you're doing business on a consumer end, you want to avoid using your social security number. As business owners, we have a little leeway because we can run things through our business and use the EIN number from our business, depending on the situation. But in general terms, if you're able to use something other than your social security number, try to use that. Because the social security number is a very powerful tool. As we all know, that is what tracks your credit. So if somebody gets your social security number and uses it for malicious purposes, they can actually destroy your credit that way. Now, one of the things I will say, and we know there's scammers out there making phone calls. If you do not know that person, and in my opinion, even if you know that person, but if you don't know that person and they ask for social security number, end the conversation right there. And the reason being, if you don't know this person, you don't know what they're going to do with that information you're about to give to them. A common scam is for the caller to say, okay, I need to verify who you are. Of course, we know they don't need the social security number to verify who you are. But if they're calling you and they say they need to verify they're talking to the right person, that's a clear sign that it's not somebody you need to be talking to, unless you're expecting that phone call. Let me put that out there. So that leads us to the other thing at business. Do not give out your PII or personal identifiable information to anybody that's not known at all, because they'll use that to gain access to your information, especially like your address, phone numbers, credit card numbers, because they'll use, like I said, oh, I'm calling on behalf of X, Y, and Z company. Can you verify who you are by giving me the last 4 digits of your credit card number? Can you verify your address? If they called you, they don't need to verify that. If you call them and you're asking to access an account, so like if you call your bank and you want to access your account, then of course they're going to ask you for your personal information. But if they're calling you, that should not be part of the conversation. If they need to make sure they're giving the right information to the right person, have them set up a way to meet in person or something so you can verify who you're giving that information to. And if they try to make it sound urgent, where, oh, and this is a common one that was going on for years, especially with the IRS, saying that you owe money in back taxes, and if you don't pay right now, they're going to send the police behind you. Problem with that is the IRS does not call people. They send out letters. They don't have time to get on the phone with everybody and call them. So that's one. Two, if they try to press you to have a sense of urgency, they're trying to get you off guard. So they're trying to make you hurry up. They're trying to make you frantic, so you will divulge more information than you need to. All right. And lastly, computers. This is a big thing right now because we are in a new normal. We are utilizing technology, just like right now with Zoom, we're utilizing technology. So you have to be cautious about how you operate online. And there's a few things that you should do. So first, make sure you use a strong password. I know we want to use a simple password we can remember, but the simpler the password, the easier it is to crack. And it's so easy nowadays that there are actually programs that somebody can pick up for free that actually cracks passwords and breaks into systems if they're not properly set up. So the first and foremost, you want to do a strong password. Now, we're starting to recommend passphrases. So what I mean by that is, rather than saying my password is, say, basketball, instead of using basketball as a password, I can say my password is way to go Jay. So it creates a more randomized set of inputs, basically, for the password. So use something like A, and you can change out some of the letters for different characters. Like the A's can be changed to the @ symbol. Little things like that creates a barrier for anybody who's trying to break into your system, because now they have to do more work. And that's one of the keys to having a secure system of secure documents, everything. You want to create these barriers. So definitely use a strong password, or preferably a passphrase. And if you have multiple passwords that you have to remember, definitely use a different password for all your accounts. But if you have multiple passwords to remember, there are tools out there called password managers. They are secure tools, so you can store all the passwords, say, on your phone or on your computer, and access them when you need them. And there's different levels. So there's a basic level where you can just unlock the password manager and pull the password you need. Or there's password managers, like one that's called Password Portal. And if you want information on this, you can let me know in the chat box, in the Q&A box, or reach out to me after the presentation. But Password Portal, what that does is acts as an extension on your browser, such as in Google Chrome. You can add as an extension. Lock your passwords in a vault, an actual password vault. But as you're using your browser, and I recommend this only done on your private computer, you can have it automatically send that password to the program that you're trying to access. So there's different levels of doing it. Now moving forward, just like we were talking about doing business, you don't want to send out your PII. If somebody requests it via email and you don't know this person, of course, do not send that information over there. As entrepreneurs, and as you're building your business, you'll start getting random offers saying that you're pre-qualified for this, or you have opportunity to get that. You just have to send over this information. Don't jump on every opportunity. Do your research. Always do your research, because this is fairly well known. If it sounds too good to be true, we all know it's too good to be true. And also, speaking of your PII, don't send in emails, but don't use it on public computers. I know that sometimes you may need to use like the library's computer or public space, but do your best not to put your personal identifiable information on a public computer, because computers are actually designed to record inputs on a certain level. So they have records in them that if somebody who knows what they're doing, they can actually go behind you and actually pull what you've done. They can pull different information out of a computer, and that information can contain your PII, which you don't want to get into the public. And there's videos on this that you can pull up. If you look at like cybersecurity videos, how to hack and stuff like that, you'll see how public spaces create a vulnerable place for regular consumers, but it creates a playground for criminals and hackers. Because again, there are tools out there that you can actually download for free. There's a full program called Kali Linux that houses multiple hacker tools. Now, traditionally, that program is used for cybersecurity experts, so we can actually test systems to make sure they're secure. But just like any tool, it depends on how you use it. So the tool does the same thing that a hacker needs for it to do. They can use that tool to break into your information. And to go further into the digital realm, you have to be sure that the websites that you use are secure websites. All right. So one way to do that is to look for the HTTPS. Now the S behind HTTP in the URL means that the link is a secure link. And you'll see more and more companies and websites using HTTPS as in a URL, especially with like banks. Banks, if you're trying to access your account at a bank account, or you're trying to start an account, make sure it says HTTPS and not HTTP, because that's one clear indication that if you're putting in sensitive information and it doesn't have that S behind the HTTP, that's an indication that this may not be a secure site. Now, the other thing to look for, and this happened recently, so at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were going through all this chaos with how we're going to operate, how the SBA is going to help support the businesses in the area and everything like that, and they introduced their different loan programs, a hacker actually set up a dummy website hoping to get people who will mistype the actual real website. And as you can see in the presentation, you'll see SBA.gov versus SBA.gov.com. The actual website is SBA.gov. That's the real website. But what the hacker did was use SBA.gov.com, hoping that they can catch people who miss putting a dot before the gov and have their site pop up so that you can click on that and put in your personal information. So you want to make sure that your links are actually pointing you to the website that you're supposed to be at. Even in the emails, if somebody emails you and you weren't expecting that email and it's saying click on this link for more information, you can actually hover over that link, and on your screen you'll see probably in the bottom corner, on the most times, a lot of times in the bottom left hand corner, it'll tell you what that link is going to. And if it doesn't look like a link that you need to be going to, don't click on it, because it can be malicious. Another thing is, if the link or attachment ends in the 3 letters EXE, so Like if you're looking for a document, it's supposed to be .doc for documents for Windows Word documents, but it doesn't say DOC, it says EXE. That is actually a virus for all intents and purposes of what we're talking about. Because EXE is what they call an executable file. So if somebody sends you an email that was not solicited and they tell you to click on this link, and the link is actually an EXE file, once you click on that link, it's going to download a program on your computer and start running, which basically you've let the hacker into your system, grabbing all your personal information. So that's just something else to keep in mind when you're trying to be safe online. Now, what I'm going to show you now is just a few more tips as far as how to make sure that your web surfing is safe and secure. So, as you can see on your screen, I switched over to my Google browser, and you can pull up this page anytime you want to. But if you follow my mouse over to the top where you see that little lock symbol by the website address, that's an important symbol to understand and know, because that also tells you that you have a secure connection and this is a safe website to be on. And to verify that, of course, you want to have that lock symbol, but if you click on it, first thing you'll see is connection is secure. Now, if it's not secure, it'll tell you it's not secure. It's usually in red as a warning sign, but you want to look for that. And down here, they have what they call certificates, how many cookies they use, and more information. That's information that's being sent back and forth between your computer and the web host. The certificates used to validate the website. Of course, the cookies track your activity on the website. So you want to check all this information, especially if you're not sure about a website that you're visiting. And if you need more information on how the information breaks down and how they verify that the website is secure, you'll click on Learn More in blue, and it actually brings you to this page on Google, which breaks down all the symbols. So, like I said, with the lock symbol, you know it's secure. If you see a with an I, that means it's not secure. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it's not a secure website, which means it's just it doesn't have that third-party validation saying that this is the website, this is a secure website. So that third-party validation is actually those certificates. And lastly, if you see a site that has that red triangle on it, be very, very careful, because that means that the website is a dangerous site. Whether it's known to be dangerous or not, that is a not secure site. Now, in the business world, there's internal sites that you'll use when you grow your business to a large enough organization, and there's ways to fix that where you'll give it a certificate and you'll make it secure. But going back to what we're talking about, you want to make sure that if you go to a website, you get that padlock and not the other symbols. Because if you get those other symbols, it's a good chance that you'll be sending out your personal information to somebody that's going to use it for a malicious purpose. Okay. Now, going back to our general presentation, this is the part that I wanted to add as far as the business side of things. In business, there's different organizations that are set up to help, such as SCORE. But there's one organization that handles technology and the safety of it, called NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They've created this framework that you can utilize whether you're in business or not. It's five key points that they look at. It's called identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And that's a general framework that they use to teach people how to be safe online. And to kind of break it down for y'all, just to give you an idea of what each step is. Identify. I'm going through my notes now. Sorry about that. Okay, identify. You have to. So the identify step is a function that assists in developing an organization's understanding to manage cybersecurity risk to systems, people, assets, data, and capabilities. So basically, whether you're in this business or at home now, you want to first identify where your weak spots are. And that's basically asking questions like, do you have an antivirus software on your computers? Is that software updated regularly? Because this antivirus software actually operates off of signatures, or basically they can only protect your system if they know what that malicious code looks like. So you have to you have to have your antivirus software updated regularly with new signatures to make sure that you're up to date on what viruses are out there. But you also want to look at firewalls, your router, your passwords, and things like that. You want to identify any weak points that your system may have, and then you go to the next step and protect that area. So you take the steps to protect your systems. And again, this is whether you're at home or at work or running your business. You want to protect your systems by adding the right firewalls, adding the right antivirus software, doing secure passwords, just so you can create those barriers to stop anybody from trying to get in. Detect is basically monitoring and detecting anything that may be malicious activities, any malicious. You want to detect that type of stuff. You don't want to just say, okay, I have a secure system, now I'm perfect. It doesn't work that way. Hackers are constantly looking for new ways to break into systems. And a lot of times, that's what causes all these updates for us to have, because somebody's found a hole in the system, and now the manufacturer, the software manufacturer, needs to update the software so it doesn't have that hole in it. So with that in mind, you want to monitor your systems. If the system starts being sluggish, you start losing access to certain files and things, that means there's a problem that you need to look into, which goes into respond. You want to have a plan of action to respond to any malicious activities. In the security realm, we'll tell you to disconnect your computers from the network, but don't turn them off. And reason being is there's information that could be lost. So we want you to keep it on so we can come in, make a full copy of that system so we can find out what's really going on. And then you. But that's just one general scope of responding. But you want to have a plan in place which coincides with your business continuity plan. It usually is part of the business continuity plan. Business continuity is basically what people have had to do in recent months and that's basically finding ways to keep their business running despite the effects of negative events. So the pandemic caused a negative event. Some businesses already had a business continuity plan in place, so they can just pull that plan and say, okay, this is how we'll continue to operate. Other businesses didn't, so they were kind of caught in a jumble. But it goes into effect the same way as if you got a data breach as well, because that creates business continuity problems. Because one of the main things, well, one of the big things about a data breach from a business perspective is if your client's personal information is affected. In Louisiana, you have to let your clients know that their data has been breached, that your data has been breached, which means that your reputation has been harmed. You can lose customers that way if you don't handle the situation properly. And you've also put your customers at risk of getting their personal identities stolen. So there's a lot going on. And as you take on the role of business owner, whatever personal information that you're gathering from your customers, you want to make sure you secure it. And it could be something simple as phone name and email address. But you don't want that to fall into the wrong hands, because if somebody gets your email list, they can do an email blast. They can spoof your email address, send out an email blast and get your clients to send over personal information, thinking that they're sending it to you, but they actually send it to a hacker, which in turn hurts your business reputation. So you want to respond, you want to recover, and that's where the business continuity plan comes into place, where you can have certain things in place so you can recover as quickly and efficiently as possible. Because the longer that your business is down, that's the more money that you lose, and it's more likely that you'll go out of business. And that's what we're facing right now, is that there's a lot of people that have their businesses in limbo, and they're pretty much running out of time. They're facing the fact that they may have to go out of business and shut their doors altogether, which we don't want that to happen. And that's why we said make sure you have that continuity plan. Now, let's talk about how will I know if somebody steals my identity? Very easy to do. You have to do your monitoring. So look at your bills. Make sure that there's no purchases that you weren't aware of that's going on your credit card bills. Like I was talking about earlier in the presentation about the child who ordered all the things off of Amazon. If her parents were actually monitoring the bill, they could have noticed that. Now, I grant you, it could be one of those next day deliveries that Amazon so proudly puts out there. But even still, you want to monitor for the different discrepancies like that. Because once you find it, you want to as soon as possible. Because here's what identity thieves do. If I'm an identity thief and I get your credit card or your bank account information, the first thing I do, I make a small purchase. It might be at a fast food restaurant, at a dollar store, but something that's insignificant enough to be overlooked, but it's still something that you did not authorize. And the reason I do that is because I want to test if you're actually paying attention to your bills. If I make that purchase and a week or two goes by and I still have access to your account, that means that you're not paying attention to your bill. Now, keep in mind, I'm also thinking about general rotation of how banks and these institutions send out these statements, when they usually send out the statements. So I'm keeping that in mind as well, because you may not have gotten your statement. But the point is, if after a purchase you have not done anything to address it, and I still have access, that means that I have the information of somebody that is not paying attention, and I can actually start making all those purchases, like the kid on Amazon that bought all those toys and everything for herself. So definitely look at your accounts. If you see a change of address on any of your accounts and you weren't expecting to change your address, that means somebody that means somebody could be trying to gain access to your account or have already gained access to your account. And this goes also for if your bills stop coming. If you didn't put your bills on online email, if you don't get your bills emailed, so if you didn't tell the company start emailing you bills and they just stop sending you bills, that's something to worry about, because that means something's happened. Somebody could have changed the address, stop the bills from coming, so you can't see that the activity on your account. They're trying to make it where you don't see it. Even if they feel like you're not paying attention to it, they'll start changing those things so you won't see it, and you'll just pay that bill. And I can say this from a first-hand point of view. Years ago, when Yahoo got their accounts hacked, I actually got caught into that scenario, and one of my streaming services information got hacked. So they were able to go in there, get access to my account from my streaming service, change the password, change the subscription level, and then lock me out. Luckily, I caught that because I was actually in a mindset of constantly using that streaming service. So when I lost access to it, that raised a red flag. But if I would not have been paying attention, if I hadn't been using it, that could have turned out a lot different, because they had access to my account. My credit card information was in there. There was a lot of things that could have happened. So, but luckily I was able to call up the streaming service, give them my information to verify who I was, and get them to reset everything. So they changed my emails and everything. So I was able to fix that. But still, if I wasn't paying attention, that could have ended up a lot worse. And I've heard stories from people who've lost a whole lot more for something that's small as losing access to your streaming service account. So, next question is what to do if somebody does steal your identity. I kind of touched on it. So what I did, I called the company where the event happened. But that's just one part of what you want to do. And each identity theft is different. So you can have an identity theft where they just steal your whole identity and crash your credit and everything. Or you can have something small like I did with a streaming service account. Or anywhere in between. So if you do fall victim to identity theft, there are some resources that you can use, and there's some tips that we have. So first, of course, is contact the company where the fraud happened at. You have to let them know who you are and that somebody stole your identity. And they have most companies have their procedures on how they handle identity theft on their end. So you let them know what happened. You ask them if they can close the account or freeze the account. So basically stop all activity on that account. And lastly, going back to what we talked about earlier, you want to change that password or that PIN number. The reason I put and or, a lot of people are going to two-factor authentication. So there's different ways that they're authenticating themselves. Now, this is not necessarily two-factor, but this is using two different items to identify who you are and get access to an account. So you want to change the access password or PIN number to any accounts that have been breached. And there is a website that the Federal Trade Commission supports and it has helped put together. It's called Theft.gov. Theft.gov I use to help people recover from identity theft. So what you'll do, you'll visit that website, or you'll call the 1-877 number, which is at the bottom of the screen. It's 1-877-438-4338. You tell them what happened, you answer the questions that they give you regarding what happened to you, and then they'll produce an actual personal recovery plan for you. And the reason they do this, they know that identity theft can cause problems and it can be a big headache trying to figure out to fix the situation. So what they did to speed up the process is just consolidated everything into one website so you can see what kind of plan will fit your particular incident. So once you get the recovery plan, you'll see in the recovery plan that it tells you the next steps in the process, which means you've already contacted the organizations where the fraud occurred. Now you're working on how to recover from that fraud. So the recovery plan that IdentityTheft.gov gives you, you'll follow those steps. They'll tell you where to call and give you that contact information, as well as giving you some pre-made letters to send out. And lastly, of course, there's reminders and different things to track your progress, so you can get back on track and back to where you wanted to be when you found out that your identity was stolen. So I know I just gave you a lot of information, but that's really just an overview of what you should do to help protect yourself from any identity theft, any problems that you may run into as you're trying to build your business, especially when you're trying to build yourself up financially. Because those type of things, if somebody gets access to your accounts and your credit and everything, that can actually ruin you in the long run. So, but with that being said, I want to open it up to any questions that you may have. And feel free to type it into the chat box or the Q&A section.